Welcome. I am Florian from the cryptocurrency tax software Chain.report, and I welcome Oliver from dEURO. I am particularly happy to see you again after a long time. We have had many points of contact. Welcome, and feel free to introduce yourself and dEURO.
Hey, Florian, thank you very, very much for the invitation. Yes, super exciting. What you can already see up here in the logo. There is a new and the first truly decentralized Euro stablecoin. Why is it truly decentralized? It is completely deployed decentrally. It means no one can really change anything about the stablecoin. It means it is completely censorship resistant and also mega compliant. We can go into this a bit more detail later. What is super interesting is that this stablecoin also provides yield, meaning it can generate interest for deposited dEURO at a rate of 10%. And we can dive deeper into what dEURO is, what elements this stablecoin has, what makes it so special, and why it is truly censorship resistant.
Okay, then I'll give a brief introduction of Chain.report. For those who don't know it yet, the tool Chain.report is a crypto tax declaration software, and I can recommend it to everyone because it is by far the cheapest crypto tax software. The competition typically costs 3 to 4 times more, and who wants to pay several hundred euros every year for a crypto tax software, especially if not much crypto activity occurs in a calendar year, depending on what arises. It has the simplest UX. That means our customers keep coming back to us and say it is unbelievably easy, and they are really happy that they switched or started using it. And by now, we really have the best data available, especially when connecting to various smart contracts like projects such as the dEURO project or various exchanges like Kraken. It becomes clear with the competition, transactions are simply missing or they are not correctly evaluated. And by now, Chain.report has the best database. I can recommend it to everyone. Take a look. And yes, we can directly transition to dEURO. What's the deal with dEURO in this project? What use cases are there? And then we can also build the bridge to the tax assessment and usage in Chain.report.
Excellent. dEURO, we've represented a small product house here. What is quite important to understand right from the start is that there is no dEURO owner, there is no central issuer, like with other stablecoins, such as the well-known USCT, that is Tether, the dollar stablecoin, which is issued centrally. Issuing centrally also means you always have to trust the central authority, that everything this central issuer says is true, meaning that everything is backed. With dEURO, it's completely different. dEURO is a decentralized, autonomously launched protocol on Ethereum. A euro-backed stablecoin means, like the dEURO, it cannot be altered by anyone, the entire protocol. There is decentralized governance, which you can see below as the foundation of everything, where corresponding changes proposed by the community can be modified, accepted, or rejected. This works through an equity share, the so-called N-debts, as seen here on the right side, which can gain value from liquidation profits, or actually also from other fees. We'll get to that shortly. You can imagine it like a shareholder in a bank, except that the bank here is truly decentralized. There are 2 more pillars in this whole dEURO setup. On one side is the topic of lending, which means one can come with an asset in general, for example, Bitcoin, to the protocol, deposit it as collateral, and draw dEURO loans against it. What is special about it when dEURO is a protocol as opposed to other protocols is that here you are not limited to one collateral, for example, but in principle, any liquid asset on Ethereum, whether it is a cryptocurrency or a tokenized asset, can be used as collateral. It is, of course, also super interesting when talking about the whole topic of tokenization of companies. Companies essentially deposit their tokenized shares in the protocol, can take out short-term loans here, and do not have to take complicated routes through any banks. There are many use cases, and Yes, the second pillar is the topic of savings. Just like in the current banking system, there are borrowers, the lending side we just discussed, but also savers. Typically, people are familiar with a savings account where one currently gets about 2% interest. The dEURO protocol offers 10% interest. Where that comes from, we can discuss again in a second.
Slide is coming. The left side, Mike.
Well, 10%, that's crazy. If you leave your money in the bank in a savings account, I don't even want to calculate how many percent less that is.
Yes, I completely agree with you. We will come to it soon. Of course, it raises the question, where does the year come from? So where do these interests come from? We'll get to that on the next slide. Very important. You can also see it below on my name tag, the Euro Association. I don't own the Euro stablecoin. Rather, there is an association, just like there is a Bitcoin association, which has taken it upon itself to promote the Euro, highlight the advantages, and of course, point out the risks, or rather point out that there are actually no risks because everyone can verify everything on chain accordingly. Something else that is extremely interesting and important is the topic of open crypto pay. You've probably heard in the press about the whole topic of paying at Spar in Switzerland with cryptocurrencies. That is also kind of from the initiated in the background by the Euro team. It is an open payment solution that is currently seeing more adoption, and the whole system works alongside generating the DAI euros also with bridges to many other Euro stablecoins, which of course also brings stability and security to the whole thing. Might be jumping further to the next page. How does the whole thing really work in brief? On the left side, you see collateral that is currently already available in the protocol. You can deposit this in the protocol and accordingly draw a loan on it. You pay interest for this, here illustrated with Bitcoin at 12%, and this 12% goes into a shareholder pool.
This shareholder pot
is essentially with this 10% base rate a way to provide savers with these 10%. So through taking a loan, interest fees are essentially created for the borrower, and these fees can be used appropriately through the liquidity contribution of the savers. You can see this difference, which then again goes into this shareholder pool and of course also to the governance, to the top content. The Euro protocol has been live for about 8 weeks, a little over 8 weeks. The numbers down here are from a week ago. They are no longer current. We actually have a current loan volume of 3 million and a savings volume of 450,000 euros. So for only 8 weeks already a very good adaptation. And how the whole thing continues, I'll just skip that maybe very briefly. There is a super interesting on-chain referral system. That means if you bring someone to the system, earn 1% on everything they do on the protocol, but that's just in brief. Here's a little roadmap of what's still ahead. You can see a lot of big exchanges that we are already in contact with, and with some we have already signed contracts. Then there are custody wallets like the Cake wallet with more than 500,000 active users, and a dEURO wallet that has just been announced and is in test flight, which can already be used. There's currently a giveaway where you can win a lot of dEURO. And there are also already next year many interesting listings coming up that are in the pipeline. Exactly, it's a super exciting project. Why is it truly decentralized? Maybe highlight it once again. Normally, clearly, stablecoins, central escrows, you have to trust. The special thing about the dEURO stablecoin is also that we completely do without oracles. So actually, this price discovery that is also needed by the chain that works in the Euro protocol via a so-called Dutch auction system. It means that these loans that are issued get auctioned off. It's going a bit too far into how the whole thing works. But this way, you can actually create price discovery for the respective assets directly within the protocol and have the possibility to do without oracles. Why decentralized stablecoins are so important was just seen again about 2 days ago or so, where USDT, I don't know if it was justified or not, no one knows, but again, at frozen stablecoins worth 200,000 euros means you have no...
That was Sui, right?
Could be Sui as well, I don't know, but it just keeps happening that even if you think you have stable coins on a decentralized blockchain and thus are secure and have stored your money in a censorship-resistant way, that's not the case. With the dEURO system, due to its decentralization, you actually have censorship-resistant euros on the blockchain. And exactly, just briefly, there's already plenty of price coverage. There are also frequent reports about the dEURO protocol. But what I think is really interesting now, and I'll pass the ball back to you on this, and many, many thanks to you, Florian, and the whole team for our successful collaboration again. If you receive yields, if you get interest, then it is simply important, especially nowadays and from now on, that it is properly recorded and prepared for taxes. And so, Flo, I hand it over to you on how we proceed.
All right. Yes. Thank you very much for the introduction to dEURO. It definitely sounds like a very exciting project, especially with 10% yield on a euro that you might want to hold anyway. So very cool thing. You say it is definitely relevant that one should perhaps also track taxes, maybe also a little introduction on why it is really important to handle crypto taxes. So first of all, there is current surveys that really only about 3% of users in Germany or in the DACH region generally actually submit a crypto tax declaration. And it is just as legally mandatory as a regular income tax declaration as one income tax or similar. It is important to proactively track these things because it is not like with my stockbroker, who maybe when you buy one stock and sell it again, automatically handles the taxes, like with a German broker. This means you have to take care of it yourself. And in the end, you can't do something like this with an Excel spreadsheet, because you can imagine that maybe a Bitcoin in 100 different steps and then somehow lend it out, and then a friend sends you some Bitcoin. This means you also have 100 different purchase prices. And then you have different holding periods and maybe sell it in 150 steps. And then the question is what belongs to whom, which algorithm is used there. And that's when you can quickly get lost using an Excel spreadsheet and can't solve it. It's a very complex algorithm. And in the end, you need cryptocurrency tax software to have all the price data, maintain an overview, and be able to calculate it correctly at all. And the tax offices then like to ask accordingly for the receipts, the tax report, especially now with the new regulations with MiCA and DARK 8. It's really indispensable to fully provide these data. MiCA and DARK 8 are perhaps also a good keyword. The regulation is advancing. At the latest, on January 1st, 2026, there will be DARK 8, and that means there is an automated mandatory reconciliation with the tax authorities from the exchanges, and supposedly this also applies to the past. That means all those 97% who did not do their taxes will certainly catch up with them badly, because if one does not declare income in their job, it naturally has severe legal consequences, and the same applies to undeclared profits from cryptocurrencies. That's the brief disclaimer about it. Disclaimer is a good keyword because all that is shown in the following use case example is the tax assessment by chain.report. Of course, we have tax consultants who advise us here and undertake the assessment. Nonetheless, this is not tax advice, not financial advice. We state what our implementation is and do not provide any tax advice here. So far, so good. Then let's just go through a walkthrough. That means we'll take a look at it with the euro. How does that even work? What are the smart contracts there? You can surely say a word or two about that. And then we'll look at the tax assessment and how to integrate the whole thing. So the first step is definitely that we go to chain.report. The website is www.chain.report. Here you see the landing page that is with the different pricing packages, but interestingly, you can use chain.report basically up to the tax report without having paid for it. You can even view the tax results. And only when you want to generate the PDF for the respective tax year, which you need at the end for the tax office, will this really low fee be due. Let's take a look at that now. We are here in the dashboard and we now have the exclusive connection of the euro. Basically, I always recommend Please do not use Wild Wild West smart contracts and meme tokens because attack software needs to know the price of such a token from somewhere and perhaps be able to recognize these smart contracts. And a smart contract could mean someone leaves a bouquet of flowers at my door on a Friday evening exactly when the moon is shining and I have paid 1 Ethereum for it. That is a possible smart contract, and tax software naturally has no chance to recognize such a smart contract if it is exotic. And exactly if you really rely on chain.report, then in this case you already have coverage for dEURO, and that is the only tool with which you can currently depict it. Okay, let's look at a sample address here, an Ethereum address on the EWM where transactions with the dEURO project have taken place. We've set up the corresponding wallet here. Usually we also have a tutorial video here. Afroschken en OCD forbi. Click here to connect, and now it takes a short time. Can take a good minute. Then all the transactions and tax evaluations are synced, and yes, we can already look at the results.
Lass die Magie geschehen.
So, and after a short time, everything has synced. As we can see by the green check marks, we have the various assets here and can also see all the data from this wallet in our dashboard. Let's take a look at the transaction list now. What exactly have we synced here? And let's start at the end. This is the moment where you might have something to add. So very simple use cases are that we have a deposit here at the beginning. That means euros and Ethereum have been deposited into this Ethereum IWM wallet. And now some magic is happening here. We see that a transaction used a smart contract, and it is the savings smart contract. And now 9,600 euro are being transferred into a savings sub-wallet. What exactly is that for a use case?
This is exactly the savings module, which allows you to earn 10% interest per year. Maybe just quickly before we jump in at the top, the topic of deposit at the bottom. So how do I actually get the euros? There are several options. You can do it exchange using whatever taxes correspond, Chaos Swap, Uniswap, or whatever else. Alternatively, there's a direct connection to your bank account through the crypto exchange DFX in Switzerland. There you have the option for 0% fees from your bank account, or with credit cards like Visa, MasterCard, even with Apple Pay, Google Pay, and can deposit euro, so to speak, from euro. So for example, you deposit 1,000 euro into your wallet, then you have 1,000 euro. So very, very important. No fees are charged accordingly. And even if you later want to take these 1,000 euros again and transfer them to your bank account, you will also receive 1,000 euros again. So there is no fee. When you actually have the euro and Ethereum in your wallet, you can put them to work. To put them to work means you deposit them through a front end on dEURO.com. You go to this front end, and then you can take this dEURO and deposit it into the smart contract. As soon as they are in this smart contract, they generate interest. Not once per day or once per month, but with every block. So every block generates interest, and thus quasi increases the euro that you have in the smart contract, and accordingly, again, claim. So collect it in your wallet and withdraw it again.
Yes, we basically see that here too. We can see that there are a total of 37,000 euros in the wallet in this example, so assets worth 37,000 euros. And we can see that around 12,142 euros are in savings. That means this value now participates in the corresponding savings program. There lie 12,150 euro, which is tracked accordingly in chain.report. Exactly. Let's continue with the transaction list. So as a user, I have now entered this amount into savings, achieving a certain yield. Now I have another deposit here, and something interesting happens here, namely other income is tracked in chain.report. This is a taxable transaction in chain.report. This means we have received an amount here, specifically interest from cryptocurrencies, which according to chain.report's assessment are not capital gains, but rather other income. And the smart contract used here is the interest smart contract. Exactly. That is the yield. Or can you perhaps explain it in more detail?
No, I think on that level, it's quite good. You have to imagine, you just deposit this dEURO into this contract. Maybe just a small security aspect. The smart contract is programmed in such a way that everything you ever deposit there can only be withdrawn again. So theoretically, there is absolutely no possibility from the smart contract side for someone to come and take your dEURO. Rather, it is solely possible to retrieve your dEUROs, including the accumulated interest. And exactly.
Okay, good. Then let's continue with the next transactions. Now we see there are additional incomes being generated, and now we have various transfers. That means there are transfers from the main wallet to the sub-wallet by pushing it in. But we can also do it in reverse. We can move 35 euros from the savings wallet back to the main wallet, perhaps also important for tax purposes after evaluation. If we have tokens in a wallet, the FIFO method is applied in the chain report. That means the coins that we first deposit in a wallet will also be the first to leave this wallet, and leaving can mean that we pay with them or move them elsewhere. This has a significant impact on what is sold, and this can make a tax difference. And if we have cryptocurrencies now in such a sub-wallet, like in the savings module, then they are excluded from this 5.0 sequence. That means they remain in the sub-wallet, cannot be sold, and only the other digital euros that are still in the main wallet can then be transferred. This even allows for certain tax optimizations. By the way, it's a feature that no other tax tool I've ever seen supports, and actually that's the only correct interpretation. Exactly, that is the withdrawal. If we now look at the other transactions, we have a swap taking place here. And yes, maybe another transaction you might want to highlight somehow.
No. So I just always find it fascinating whenever I see Gen Report, how easily it works. Because if we're being honest, this whole tax issue is one of the biggest pains in the crypto area. With Chain Report, you really have the opportunity to represent it cleanly. That's why we're incredibly happy and truly very pleased that Chain Report has agreed to be the first tax software to integrate dEURO natively. I also believe they will remain the only ones to do it correctly natively. Therefore, a clear recommendation from me as well. Also, from a personal perspective, I have been a Chain Report user for years. I believe it has already saved me several euros that I would otherwise have had to pay to the tax office. And what should just be made clear, there is no simple way to declare your crypto gains or even losses for tax purposes. A PDF comes out afterward, you give it to your tax advisor, and with it, the tax advisor knows what to do. And we are super happy that dEURO is also part of the family.
Many users actually enter it themselves into the form, for example, on Elster Online or similar portals, and do this without a tax advisor. But basically, I used to always do it with a tax advisor. Yes, let's go ahead and do the use case. So I have now participated in the project at dEURO, have generated my yields, and have to tax everything in the end. So that means especially the income I have earned with it. Then we'll look at the final page here. I can, if I have the respective tax year, generate the tax report, and I can already see the tax assessment and the different transactions in the overview. Now I should be a bit careful here. Namely, a crypto project is usually not a closed ecosystem. That means I have 5 warnings here, and the warnings can mean that in the end, transactions might be assessed to my disadvantage for tax purposes. The reason for this is, if we go back to the transaction list, again, like this, then we see here in the transactions that sometimes there's a warning attached. And warnings are not errors, but rather indications that data is missing here. And if I only enter dEURO, then this is not my entire crypto world, but rather a project. For example, I could have also acquired the cryptocurrencies on DFX, and it can also be created here at Chain Report as a DFX wallet. And accordingly, chain report asks, dear user, where do these dEURO actually come from? Where do these Ethereums come from? Where did you get them? And the problem is, if you don't know where they come from, then you also don't know how long they were held, because the acquisition date is unknown. And with an unknown acquisition date, of course, the price is also unknown. The Ethereum token at the time of acquisition is unknown. And that has the consequence that, unfortunately, one must set the acquisition price to €0 defensively, and that can become costly tax-wise. So the recommendation here is definitely to resolve all warnings. We just saw that one can display this in the filter and really read through each warning. Where do the cryptocurrencies come from? Oh yes, I got that from the DFX wallet. Integrate the DFX wallet. In the end, everything is straightened out. And after doing that, you can then generate the tax report here. Exactly, it is as simple as possible. The users want to deal with taxes as little as possible. It's, I always say, like a dentist visit. You go once a year. Well, you should actually do it more often. And when you do, you try to get through as painlessly as possible. And chain report is probably a genuinely painless way to get through, especially with dEURO, a project that is currently only connected to chain report. As you've seen here, it is the most comfortable solution.
What is really great about you is that it's not just special projects like dEURO involved, but actually also the major common crypto exchanges, which of course helps to have everything in one place, not several. Needs tax reports, but can handle everything through chain report in principle. And that really makes for better sleep. Let's put it this way.
Exactly. There are also projects like Binance, Kraken, and essentially all big and well-known crypto exchanges, and also DEXs are connected there accordingly. Exactly. Cool. Assumes, before we move on to the giveaways, if we are being precise, do you perhaps have a few final words for the dEURO followers?
Yes. We, as the dEURO Association, will keep pushing forward. I saw the roadmap earlier. There is still a lot that is just in the early stages on the roadmap. The clear goal is to make dEURO the most liquid Euro stablecoin and to show that decentralization will always win. And we are really looking forward to seeing where dEURO stands at the end of the year, where we can use dEURO everywhere, perhaps in the local supermarket. I heard that there are major initiatives, not only in Switzerland, but in the European area from many brands that everyone here on the call knows. And maybe at some point, their assets will be in the savings module and bills can be paid directly from the savings module. This is something that is not yet included in the report with channel report, but we will certainly incorporate it anytime.
Yes, cool. Then I would say, let's move on to the contest. Chain Report is giving away an investor license on its site, which means an opportunity where you can generate a tax report for up to 5,000 transactions for 1 calendar year, and on the side of dEURO.
Of course, we'll also throw something in, 100 digital euro directly into the winner's wallet.
Great, thank you for that as well. How you can participate is actually quite simple. In the video description, there will be specific instructions for the giveaway participation. First, there is a tweet you need to retweet. You need to leave a comment with at least 7 words under this video. And this video will probably also be available in English and accordingly on the dEURO channel, and you can then participate there in the same way.
That means 2 licenses, 200 euro, mega cool. I'm already looking forward to the users. And also, if there are any questions about dEURO, there is dEURO.com, where the corresponding channels are available for you to contact the community. If there are any questions about that, feel free to ask there anytime. Response time is quite fast. Therefore, many thanks, Flo, for your efforts to integrate the euro. Thank you for your tax software, which makes life significantly easier for so many. And yes, we look forward to everything that's coming.
Yes, then thank you very much for presenting dEURO so well. Great project. And in this sense, I hope we see each other again here soon.